We, the gamers. Hey, I'm Frozo, and this is Jurassic Shotgun, and this is the Conservative Gamers. Today we're going to talk about the card game industry, and a little bit about how we played card games in our life. For me personally, I've played Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh! I've played in hundreds of local tournaments back where I grew up, and I've won one tournament, sadly, which was a tag team tournament, and me and my partner had Exodia decks. I've also won quite a bit of Pokemon local tournaments, though, with a Psychic deck. I was really good at that. How about you?
I've played all kinds of card games. I've played Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! My main one was always Magic the Gathering, ever since for about 15 years. Yeah, I have around 1,500 cards. I've never really played professionally, as in any tournaments or anything. I usually just collect the cards. I have a very long, storied kind of history with card games, though.
One thing I forgot to add was I was actually in a regional Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament one time in Jackson, Tennessee. We had to play 7 matches, but I only won 4 of them with my Exodia deck. Jurassic Shotgun wants to talk a little bit about Wizards of the Coast. Take the floor.
Alright, Wizards of the Coast is a gaming company and studio that has been around at least since the early 90s. They own some of the most popular and famous and best-selling games of all time. Those including the Pokemon card game, at least I know they did that for a while. Magic the Gathering and Dungeons & Dragons are their 2 main ones. I have been heavily invested in both those games since in grade school when I first was exposed to them. Due to all the controversies surrounding these games, specifically the Satanic Panic in the 80s around D&D, in the 90s it was more about Magic than kind of the same thing. I've defended these games and others like them ever since middle school, have spent hundreds of dollars on each one of them. I have probably a dozen Dungeons & Dragons books, which are the hardcover supplements and the core rule books and whatnot. I specialize in the 3.5 edition rule set of Dungeons & Dragons, and by extension, few things for Pathfinder, which is essentially the same thing. Recently, unfortunately, Dungeons & Dragons and Magic the Gathering, Wizards of the Coast as a whole, have gone politically correct, and that is that they just released 5th edition D&D, and in the core rulebooks, they talk about transgender characters, which is a bit of a needless thing since you can make any character you want, or any kind of character you want. It was extremely inclusive even from the very beginning, but they felt the need to put that in there. In an interview, they said about gamers who might have a problem with this, "We're not interested in entertaining bigots," I believe the quote was, and we'll provide a link to you below. Then now it's gotten to Magic. I know that in 2013, I believe it was, when the Theros block first started, they released a card. I'll post the link to it below. It was I think sorcery or enchantment card with 2 statues, and the flavor text implied a homosexual relationship, and the creator confirmed it. And the big one recently, though, is Alesha, Who Smiles at Death, and it is a red-white card from the Tarkir block that is the first transgender character in Magic the Gathering to much fanfare. It did have some controversy to it, but like most things on those kinds of sites, they kind of covered it up, Like if you look in the comment section for a lot of games that anybody has a problem with, you'll see in the comments, comment deleted, or somebody thumbed down to oblivion, which is usually conservative or even quasi-conservative or libertarian opinions about it. I'm quite saddened to have to give up these 2 major series that I've played all my life because the creators have decided that even after defending them for all those years, they don't want my business because of my political and social beliefs.
Yeah, when I was growing up, but people would go into our local hobby shop where we'd play Yu-Gi-Oh! And all the card games and say this is devil worshipping and stuff, and we would always defend it, and now the games that we defend are turning their backs on us. For example, one time when we were having a Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament at the card shop, a woman came in and was like, "What y'all are doing is devil worshipping." And he also had Magic tournaments and Pokemon tournaments like I mentioned earlier, and I don't think this was a rare occurrence. I grew up in Mississippi, and in Mississippi, that kind of thing is still normal there to this day.
I'm actually surprised that's still so common even after all these years. There's quite a few things that still get a lot of controversy, apparently.
You also wanted to talk about how Wizards of the Coast, they used to have in their forums a place conservative or Christian people could come and speak about their opinions, but they took that away or something.
Yeah, I think it was a Q&A or an article about their Christian customers and how they were trying to get more in contact with them and their parents about trying to destroy the stigma of D&D and of Magic the Gathering. That was around 10 years ago, maybe a little less. They put that up, mid-2000s, I think. They just don't have an opinion anymore. It's now run by SJWs. Most companies these days are run by SJWs. Even major comic companies like Marvel, DC, and IDW, and most likely Dark Horse are run at least in part by the SJWs.
Yeah, it's amazing how fast this changed in such a short amount of time. I mean, it was just like a snap of a finger and it was changed.
Well, from what I heard, it was like more like slow creep, even back from way 2008. And before that, even in the 90s, I heard stuff creeping in. Certain authors and guys like that were getting fired because of their opinions from comic books and stuff like that and getting blacklisted.
I grew up in Mississippi, so this stuff, unless you were joking around at school or something, you didn't talk about it. I mean, it was considered like taboo to talk about it publicly. It was like we were sheltered from that. We were sheltered from the outside world on how things were changing. And when I moved away from the South, it's amazing to me how far our world has dropped in morality.
The main thing for me was that until last year, I had really crappy internet. I could email my friends, but my internet was so crappy it could do next to nothing. And once I got on the internet, I actually found out, exactly how bad things were when I was reading the forums. And we do have a local library that has good internet. I just went there to talk to my buddies and look various things up. But I wasn't always on the internet like I am nowadays. It's just insane how much things have changed. Progressives think that morality self-improves. Conservatives believe we can only get more moral, and that it's always a set thing, or in the general ballpark. You don't do certain things, but within those boundaries, you can do pretty much whatever you want. It's just crazy. In the last 2 or 3 years especially, it's really gotten crazy out there as far as how things have changed.
I think it's sad how far everything has gone. I mean, like, you cannot find any piece of medium where SJWs haven't got their fingers sunk into already. I cannot just comprehend how it happened like this, because like you said, it was kind of going underneath and then just like bam, it was there.
Recently, I think it was like 2012, 2013, DC had hired the famed sci-fi author Orson Scott Card, who wrote Ender's Game, which is a sci-fi classic, to write the monthly Superman comic book. Everything was all set to do that. They had the artists in place and all that stuff. They're ready to do that. And then various groups on the left found out about it. And the thing is, Orson Scott Card is a Mormon and is also on the chair of a traditional marriage organization. He's one of the main guys. And essentially, they attacked DC with such vitriol. Oh my God, you can't have him on there. That, first off, it scared away the artist. The artist quit that project because of that. And eventually, they fired Orson Scott Card from the project and said, okay, we're not doing that anymore because they accused him of homophobia and because of his views on marriage and sexuality.
And that about wraps up our thoughts on the matter. Tell us what you think in the comments below and give us a like if you enjoyed the video to share us around. And until next time, conservative gamers will see you then.